Hey YouTube, it's my time behind the camera today, and I wanted to talk a little bit about a controversy that was in the news lately with Dan Savage. He spoke at a journalism conference for teens where they were talking about social media bullying and the It Gets Better project. But Dan kind of used that to talk a little bit about the Bible and basically offended a bunch of students when he referred to the Bible as a pro-slavery document. And when a bunch of them got up and walked out, he pretty much commented on that and told them that they were pansy-assed. So take a look and you'll see what I'm talking about.
We can learn to ignore the bullshit in the Bible about gay people the same way we have learned to ignore the bullshit in the Bible about shellfish, about slavery, about dinner, about farming, about menstruation, about virginity, about masturbation. We ignore bullshit in the Bible about all sorts of things. People are dying because people can't clear this one last hurdle. They can't get past this one last thing in the Bible about homosexuality. One thing I want to talk about is so you can tell the Bible guys in the hall they can come back now because I'm done beating up the Bible. It's funny as someone who's on the receiving end of beatings that are justified by the Bible, how pansy-ass some people react when you push back.
Okay. First off, I want to point out something that actually Zinnia Jones pointed out when she did her takedown on this, is that this conference was voluntary. Nobody really had to be there. So for a bunch of Christian students to go to this conference knowing that Dan Savage was going to be speaking, they sort of kind of set themselves up for this experience, in my opinion. I do, however, have to say that what Dan said was true from an absolutely factual point of view. The Bible does contain a lot of stuff that details how you can buy other people, how long you can have them for, with how they can earn their freedom back, if you can keep their daughters or wives once they've earned their freedom back. Those things are pretty much facts. And as somebody who has spiritual beliefs of my own and who was raised to be Christian, that's not something that's really talked about when we're having Sunday school classes or something I was ever really taught. Slavery was always a fact of the Bible, but you always just sort of think about it as a relic of the past. Even in high school, when they're teaching you about how religion was used to support the slavery and the keeping of African Americans, you still think of it as a relic of the past. But Dan made the point that if we learn to ignore the parts of the Bible that we don't find relevant to us today, why can we not take that one step further when it comes to gay people? Why do we take Leviticus and all these other passages of the Bible to be the absolute unassailable truth when we wear fabrics made of, mixed types, when we mix seeds, when we plant in a field, when you have sex with a woman who's menstruating, or eat shellfish, or all these things that are also outlawed, And that's a valid point. What Dan said and how he said it, I wish he had not gone and called them pansy-assed, because I think that sort of completely destroyed the point of what he was trying to say, and now we're lost in the controversy of Dan Savage's name-calling. One of the things I love about Dan Savage is that he will tell it like it is, and he doesn't pull any punches, and he doesn't worry so much about whether you get your feelings hurt. And there have been some times, especially when he's taking on big-name pundits, when that's really called for. When a diplomatic way of addressing the issue doesn't get the point of the cross as just cutting right to the bone. And Dan is really good about that. In this instance, though, when you're talking about bullying, and most of the kids that are in that crowd are hearing about bullying every day, and how bullying is not just violence, but it's also name-calling and harassment of all kinds, it sort of completely negated his message a little bit. I do think that being called pansy-assed once is not the same as every time you walk down your school corridors and somebody trips you, knocks over your stuff, calls you a faggot. Those are things that make you live with shame and absolute fear every day to the point of wanting to literally die. And it's a big difference between somebody calling you pansy as you walk out of a room. Zinnia, however, who did her own take on this, ZJump TV, Zinnia Jones, said something really pertinent, and I'll let you take a look.
And if this was your reaction as a student of journalism, then what the hell kind of journalist are you? Make no mistake, this was an event where attendance was voluntary. It was not a mandatory school assembly, and they were not a captive audience. And while they certainly had no obligation to stay there and listen to him, I have to wonder whether they really understand what journalism is about. Journalists may often have to talk to people with whom they disagree. They'll find themselves covering events that they find objectionable. Yet these aspiring journalists decided that there was no need to listen to Dan Savage as soon as he said something that offended them. Now, I'm no journalist, but when the Westboro Baptist Church came to my neighborhood, I didn't run away from them. I walked right up to them and asked for an interview. What would you do if, like, tomorrow it was 100% proven that there actually is no God? How would you react to that?
You're a hellbound heretic.
So it was a journalism conference. If they're studying to be journalists, I don't understand how somebody criticizing the Bible shouldn't be looked at honestly and refuted from a journalistic point of view. Even as a person of faith, you need to be able to look at what you believe in honestly, with open eyes, in the clear light of day. Otherwise, you don't understand why you believe in it. And journalists, as she said, have to face some stuff that they really find distasteful. That's just a part of the job. And if you can't do that, you're not going to be a very good journalist. So for them to get up and walk out didn't make a whole lot of sense. And it really looked more like they had gone there to be outraged and leave, to make the point. So I want to make one more point. And that's that Christians quite often pull out the passages of the Bible and the things that they don't like completely out of context in order to denigrate gay people. They do it every day, all the time. I've grown up with it as a part of my own experience. For Dan to pull slavery out of the Bible out of context, which he's been accused of doing now, is really doing the same thing. And I think that's a fair and valid thing to do. So if we're going to take this book as an absolute unassailable truth, the entire Bible, then you have to take the whole thing. If you're going to look at it as a document that is an evolving, a tale of mankind's evolving spirituality and relationship to God, you have to apply that to the whole book. You know, we can't all take the little bits and pieces that we like. That's just my opinion on the matter. I think we need to just learn the lessons from this, let Dan Savage go, and to remember that we'll get a lot more done if we start talking to each other and being honest, not only about what we believe in, but about the differences we have in our lives. So, just my 2 cents. See you later, YouTube.